Amora's water broke at exactly 6:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve, alone in a Seoul hotel room she could barely afford. The warm liquid soaked through her dress as another contraction ripped through her body, so violent she had to grip the edge of the dresser to stay upright. Her phone sat on the bed, Jaehyun's number still blocked after 6 months of silence. She had promised herself she wouldn't call him. She had promised herself she could do this alone. But her baby was coming 3 weeks early in a foreign country where she barely spoke the language, and pride was a luxury she could no longer afford. Her hands shook as she unblocked the number and pressed call. It rang once, twice, then straight to voicemail. His voice, smooth and professional. "You've reached Jaehyun Kang. Leave a message." "Jaehyun, it's Amara." Her voice cracked. "I'm in Seoul. The baby's coming. I'm at the Riverside Hotel in Gangnam. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need help. Please." She hung up and doubled over as another contraction hit. Through the hotel window, she could see Christmas lights twinkling across the city, families walking hand in hand through the snow. Somewhere out there, Jaehyun was living his perfect life, and she was about to give birth to his daughter completely alone. The taxi ride to his location was a blur of pain and desperation. She'd seen the address on his company's website for their annual Christmas gala at the Blue Mountain Resort. It was insane to go there. It was humiliating. But the contractions were coming every 5 minutes now, and the hospital required a Korean guarantor for foreign patients. He was the only person she knew in this entire country. 6 months ago, everything had been different. Amara had met Jaehyun at the African Tech Summit in Lagos. She was the keynote speaker on digital marketing strategies for emerging markets. He was there representing Kang Tech Industries, his family's billion-dollar conglomerate, scouting for expansion opportunities. She'd noticed him in the front row during her presentation, his sharp eyes tracking every word, every gesture. After her speech, he'd approached her at the networking reception. "Amara or Konkwo," he'd said, extending his hand. "That was the most insightful presentation I've heard all week." "Jaehyun Kang," she'd replied, recognizing him immediately. That's high praise from someone who's been featured in Forbes 30 Under 30. His smile had been devastating. "You research your audience. I research everyone worth knowing." That first conversation had lasted 3 hours. They talked about everything: technology, culture, the pressure of family expectations, the loneliness of always being on. By the end of the night, they'd exchanged numbers. By the end of the week, they were inseparable. For 2 weeks, Jaehyun had shown her a side of himself he claimed no one else ever saw. They'd walked along Bar Beach at sunset, his fingers interlaced with hers. They'd eaten suya from street vendors and jollof rice at her favorite local spot. He told her about the weight of being the second son in a chaebol family, always proving himself, never quite measuring up to his older brother's ruthless efficiency. "Sometimes I feel like I'm playing a role," he'd confessed one night on her apartment rooftop. "The perfect son. The brilliant CEO. But with you, I feel like I can just be Jaehyun." "Then be Jaehyun," she'd whispered, kissing him. "Be real with me." On his last night in Lagos, they'd made love in her apartment while rain pounded against the windows. Afterwards, he'd held her close and whispered, "I'll come back for you. I promise. This isn't just a conference fling." "Don't make promises you can't keep," she'd said, trying to protect her heart. "I keep my promises," he'd insisted, kissing her forehead. "Trust me." But when she'd called him 6 weeks later, voice shaking as she said, "I'm pregnant," everything had changed. The warm, vulnerable man she'd known had disappeared, replaced by someone cold and calculating. "Are you sure it's mine?" The words had cut deeper than any knife. "How dare you," she'd breathed. "You know you're the only one." A long pause. Then, "What do you want?" "Money for the procedure." "I'm keeping the baby, Jaehyun." Another pause, longer this time. "That's not possible. My family would never accept this. The scandal alone would destroy everything I've built. I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm just telling you you're going to be a father." "No," he'd said firmly. "I can't be. I'll send you money. Enough to be comfortable. But I can't be involved. I'm sorry, Amara. This was a mistake." A mistake. Their entire relationship, reduced to a mistake. The wire transfer had arrived the next day. $200,000. Blood money. She'd wanted to send it back, but pride didn't pay for prenatal care or hospital bills. She'd taken the money, blocked his number, and tried to forget Jaehyun Kang had ever existed. But forgetting became impossible when her daughter kicked. When she saw his eyes in every ultrasound. When she woke up at 3 a.m. wondering if their baby would have his smile. 3 days ago, Amara had flown to Seoul on impulse. Maybe it was hormones. Maybe it was stupidity. But she'd needed to see him one more time, needed to give him one last chance to be the man she'd fallen in love with. She'd planned to show up at his office after Christmas, show him her belly, and say, "This is your daughter. You don't have to be with me, but you should know her." But her body had other plans. The taxi pulled up to the Blue Mountain Resort at 7:23 p.m. Through the ornate gates, Amara could see in winter wonderland, ice sculptures glowing with internal lights, a massive Christmas tree strung with thousands of twinkling bulbs, snow gently falling over elegantly dressed guests. And there, in the center of it all, was Jaehyun. He looked exactly as she remembered. Sharp jawline, perfectly styled black hair, an expression of confident control. He wore a tailored black suit that probably cost more than her entire year's rent. Next to him stood a woman in a white dress, delicate and beautiful, everything Amara was not. His fiancée. It had to be. "Miss, we're here," the taxi driver said in broken English. Amara paid him and stepped out into the cold. Another contraction hit immediately, so strong her knees buckled. She grabbed onto a decorative lamppost, breathing through the pain. When it passed, she looked up to see Jaehyun kneeling in the snow, a ring box open in his hand. No, this couldn't be happening. "Move," she whispered to herself. "Just turn around and leave." But her feet carried her forward, through the gates, past the startled security guard, into the courtyard where at least 50 people stood watching Jaehyun's perfect proposal. She heard gasps as guests noticed her, a heavily pregnant black woman in a simple dress, completely out of place among Seoul's elite. Jaehyun was mid-sentence, his voice carrying across the courtyard. "Mina, you are the embodiment of everything I've ever wanted. You're graceful, intelligent, the perfect partner for the life I need to build. Will you marry me?" "Jaehyun." Amara's voice came out stronger than she felt. He froze. The ring box slipped from his fingers, falling into the snow. Slowly, impossibly slowly, he turned around. When his eyes met hers, she saw everything flash across his face. Shock, recognition, horror, and something that might have been longing. "Amara." His voice was barely a whisper. "My water broke," she said simply. "I need help." The woman in white, Mina, looked between them with growing confusion. "Jaehyun, who is this?" But before he could answer, another contraction seized Amara. This one was different, more intense, accompanied by a pressure that made her cry out. She felt her knees give way, the world tilting sideways. The last thing she saw before strong arms caught her was Jaehyun's face, pale with panic, all his careful control shattered. "Someone call an ambulance," he shouted. "Now." Amara regained consciousness in his arms. He'd carried her to a bench, his jacket wrapped around her shoulders. Around them, the carefully orchestrated proposal had dissolved into chaos. Guests were filming on their phones. Mina stood frozen, the UN-accepted ring glittering in the snow at her feet. An older Korean woman who could only be Jaehyun's mother was shouting rapid-fire Korean at him. "I'm sorry," Amara managed. "I didn't mean to ruin this. I just needed." "Stop," Jaehyun cut her off, his jaw tight. "The ambulance is coming. Just breathe." "Jaehyun, what is happening?" Mina's voice was sharp. "Who is she?" Before he could answer, a man in a suit identical to Jaehyun's stepped forward. Older, colder, with the same sharp features but none of the warmth. His brother, Amara realized. "Everyone, please excuse us," the brother said smoothly in English, then Korean. "There's been a medical emergency. The proposal will continue shortly. Please enjoy the refreshments." But no one moved. Every phone was pointed at them. "Jaehyun," his mother hissed in English, clearly for Amara's benefit. Explain this immediately. Jaehyun's hands were shaking where they gripped Amora's arms. Mother, not now. She needs medical attention. She needs to leave, his mother snapped. This is clearly some scheme to extort money from our family. Security. Stop. Jaehyun's voice cracked like a whip. Just stop. She's not lying. The baby is mine. The courtyard went absolutely silent. Mina made a small, wounded sound. Jaehyun's mother's face turned white, then red. His brother's expression never changed, but his eyes went cold as ice. You're lying, Mina breathed. Tell me you're lying. I'm sorry, Jaehyun said, not looking at her. I'm so sorry. Another contraction hit. This time, Amara couldn't hold back the scream. The pressure was unbearable, her body demanding she push. This was happening too fast. Something was wrong. The ambulance is still 10 minutes away, someone called out. We don't have 10 minutes, Amara gasped. The baby's coming now. Jaehyun's face went sheet white. Hold on. Just hold on. I can't. Amara's words dissolved into another scream. My car, Jaehyun said suddenly. He scooped her up, carrying her like she weighed nothing. I'm driving her myself. Jaehyun, you can't leave, his mother protested. Think about what this looks like. He turned to face his family, and Amara saw something shift in his expression. The mask of the perfect son cracked completely. I don't care what it looks like. She needs help, and I'm the reason she's alone in a foreign country. I'm taking her to the hospital. Everyone else can go to hell. He carried Amara through the stunned crowd to a sleek black Mercedes. He placed her carefully in the passenger seat and ran around to the driver's side. As he started the engine, Mina appeared at his window. Don't do this, she said quietly. If you drive away with her, we're done. Everything we planned, everything we are, it's over. Jaehyun's hands tightened on the steering wheel. For a moment, Amara thought he might actually stay. Then he looked at her, really looked at her, and she saw tears in his eyes. I know, he said to Mina. I'm sorry. He hit the gas, and they sped away from the resort. Behind them, Amara could see Mina standing alone in the snow, the Christmas lights reflecting off her white dress, looking like a ghost of the life Jaehyun had just destroyed. The drive to the hospital was a nightmare. Contractions came every 2 minutes now. Amara's hands gripped the door handle so hard her knuckles went white. Jaehyun drove like a man possessed, weaving through traffic, his phone ringing constantly with calls he ignored. Why did you come back? He asked suddenly, his voice strained. You took the money. You said you'd handle this alone. I did handle it alone, Amara panted between contractions. For 6 months. But I wanted you to know her. I wanted to give you one more chance to be better than the coward who ghosted me. His jaw clenched. I didn't ghost you. I made a clean break. You paid me to disappear. That's not a clean break, that's buying your conscience. What did you want me to do? He shouted, and she realized he was crying. Tell my family I got a woman pregnant during a business trip. Watch them destroy you in the media. My mother would have made your life hell. So instead you made mine hell by yourself, Amara shot back. Do you know what it's like to go through pregnancy alone? To hear her heartbeat for the first time with no one to share it with? To lie awake terrified about labor and know there's no one coming to hold your hand? You had $200,000. I didn't want your money, I wanted you. The words hung in the air between them. Jaehyun's hands trembled on the steering wheel. When he spoke again, his voice was barely audible. I wanted you too. Every day. But wanting isn't enough. My family's expectations, the company, the scandal, it would have buried us both. So you chose them over us. I chose survival. Before Amara could respond, the strongest contraction yet seized her entire body. She felt something give way inside her, a sharp pain followed by tremendous pressure. When she looked down, she saw blood on the seat. Jaehyun, she whispered. Something's wrong. He looked over and went pale. We're almost there. Just hold on. I'm scared. His hand found hers, squeezing tight. I know. I'm scared too. But you're strong, Amara. Stronger than anyone I've ever met. You can do this. They screeched into the hospital emergency entrance. Jaehyun was out of the car instantly, shouting in Korean for help. Within seconds, nurses surrounded them with a wheelchair. Amara was whisked through automatic doors into blinding fluorescent light, Jaehyun running alongside the wheelchair. "Are you the father?" a nurse asked in English. Jaehyun hesitated for only a moment. "Yes. I'm the father." They rushed her into a delivery room. A doctor appeared, speaking rapid Korean to the nurses, then switching to English for Amara. "I'm Dr. Kim. You're hemorrhaging. We need to perform an emergency C-section immediately. Do you consent?" "Yes," Amara gasped. "Save my baby. Please save my baby." "We'll save you both," Dr. Kim promised. "Sir, you'll need to wait outside." "No," Amara said, gripping Jaehyun's hand. "Let him stay. Please." Dr. Kim looked between them, then nodded. "Scrub in quickly." Someone thrust surgical scrubs at Jaehyun. He changed in seconds, his expensive suit left in a heap on the floor. When he returned to her side, Amara saw pure terror in his eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered as they wheeled her toward the operating room. "I'm sorry for showing up like that. I ruined everything for you." "You didn't ruin anything," he said, his voice breaking. "I did that 6 months ago when I was too much of a coward to choose you." The operating room was freezing. They positioned her on the table, erected a drape across her belly so she couldn't see. Jaehyun sat by her head, still holding her hand. The anesthesiologist administered the epidural. Amara felt her lower body go numb. "You're going to feel pressure," Dr. Kim warned. "But no pain. Are you ready?" Amara looked at Jaehyun. His face was streaked with tears, his perfect composure completely shattered. This was the real him, she realized. Not the polished CEO or the dutiful son. This terrified man holding her hand was the Jaehyun she'd fallen in love with in Lagos. "I'm ready," she said. The surgery began. Amara couldn't see what was happening, but she felt the pressure, the tugging, the strange sensation of her body being opened. Jaehyun kept his eyes locked on hers, whispering reassurances, his thumb stroking her hand. "You're doing great," he murmured. "Almost there." Then suddenly, a sound cut through the operating room that made Amara's heart stop. Silence. The baby wasn't crying. "Doctor." Amara's voice rose in panic. "Why isn't she crying?" Dr. Kim didn't answer. Amara heard rapid Korean, urgent footsteps, the sound of medical equipment being moved. Jaehyun squeezed her hand so hard it hurt. "Please," Amara begged. "Please tell me what's happening." More silence. Then, faint and fragile, a tiny cry. It grew stronger, more indignant, the most beautiful sound Amara had ever heard. "She's okay," Dr. Kim announced, relief evident in his voice. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and very angry about being evicted. A nurse brought the baby around the drape. She was tiny, wrinkled, covered in vernix, and absolutely perfect. Her skin was a beautiful brown, her hair jet black, her little face scrunched up in outrage. When the nurse placed her on Amara's chest, the baby's eyes opened, impossibly dark and familiar. Jaehyun's eyes. "Oh my God," Amara breathed. "She's here. She's really here." Jaehyun stared at his daughter like he'd never seen anything so miraculous. Slowly, hesitantly, he reached out to touch her tiny hand. Her fingers immediately closed around his, gripping tight. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi, little one. I'm your..." His voice broke. "I'm your father." The baby made a small sound, like she was responding. Jaehyun let out a sob, his forehead dropping to rest against Amara's shoulder. "I'm so sorry," he choked out. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I'm so sorry I made you go through this alone. I'm so sorry for everything." Amara closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her daughter on her chest, the warmth of Jaehyun's tears soaking through her hospital gown. 6 months of anger and hurt and loneliness crashed over her all at once. But before she could respond, before she could tell him that sorry wasn't enough, that he'd have to prove himself every single day, the operating room door burst open. Jaehyun's mother stood in the doorway, flanked by his brother and 2 security guards. Her face was a mask of cold fury. "Step away from that woman," she commanded in English. Now. Jaehyun lifted his head, his jaw setting in a way Amara had never seen before. Get out. You will come with me immediately. We have already contacted our lawyers. That child will be given a paternity test, and if she is yours, we will arrange appropriate financial compensation and a non-disclosure agreement. But you will not throw away your life for a mistake. She's not a mistake, Jaehyun said, his voice dangerous. She's my daughter. You have responsibilities. A company to run. A family name to protect. You cannot. I said get out. Jaehyun roared, standing up. This is my daughter. This is my choice. And I choose them. His mother's face went rigid. If you choose them, you choose to lose everything else. Your position at the company. Your inheritance. Your family. Everything. The operating room went silent. Even the baby stopped fussing. Amara looked up at Jaehyun, seeing him truly at a crossroads. She knew what his family meant to him. Knew the weight of generations of expectations on his shoulders. Knew that choosing her would cost him everything he'd ever worked for. Then I lose everything, Jaehyun said quietly. His mother's face crumpled, just for a moment, revealing something that might have been pain. Then her mask slammed back into place. You will regret this, she said. When the money runs out. When the scandal destroys what's left of your reputation. When she leaves you because you have nothing left to offer. You will regret choosing her over your family. The only thing I regret, Jaehyun said, looking down at his daughter, is that I didn't choose her 6 months ago. His mother stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned on her heel and walked out, his brother following silently behind. The door swung shut with a finality that sounded like the end of everything. Jaehyun sank back into his chair, his whole body shaking. He looked at Amara with eyes full of fear and determination and something that might have been hope. I meant it, he said. I choose you. Both of you. If you'll let me. Amara looked at him, this man who had broken her heart and just destroyed his entire life to be here. This man who was her daughter's father, whether she liked it or not. This man who had finally, maybe, become the person she'd believed he could be. I don't forgive you, she said quietly. Not yet. His face fell. But, she continued, you can earn it. Starting now. Starting with her. She looked down at their daughter, who was watching them both with those impossibly dark eyes. What should we name her? Jaehyun asked softly. Amara thought about everything that had happened tonight. The ruined proposal. The desperate drive. The emergency surgery. The moment this tiny person had entered the world and changed everything. Noel, she said. Christmas miracle. Because that's what she is. Jaehyun smiled through his tears. Noel or Konkwo Kang. Just or Konkwo for now, Amara corrected. You have to earn the Kang. Fair enough, he whispered, kissing his daughter's tiny forehead. Hi, Noel. I'm your father, and I promise you, I'm never disappearing again. As if in response, Noel grabbed his finger tighter and yawned, her tiny face scrunching up in the exact same way Jaehyun's did. For a moment, in that quiet operating room, everything felt possible. But moments don't last forever. Reality returned in the form of Dr. Kim clearing his throat. We need to finish the surgery and move you to recovery, he said gently. Dad, you can accompany your daughter to the nursery while we close up. Jaehyun looked panicked at the thought of leaving Amara, but she nodded. Go with her. Make sure she's safe. He kissed Amara's forehead quickly, desperately, then followed the nurse carrying Noel. As they wheeled her away, Amara closed her eyes and let herself feel everything she'd been holding back, relief, fear, exhaustion, and a dangerous flutter of hope that terrified her more than anything else. The recovery room was quiet when they brought her in 2 hours later. Amara was groggy from the anesthesia, her abdomen throbbing despite the pain medication. A nurse helped her into a private room, surprisingly luxurious for a hospital. Your husband upgraded you to the VIP wing, the nurse explained in careful English. He's not my husband, Amara said automatically. The nurse smiled knowingly. He certainly acts like one. He's been pacing outside the nursery for the past hour, watching your daughter through the glass. He looks terrified to hold her. Despite everything, Amara felt a smile tug at her lips. He should be terrified. Fatherhood is terrifying. So is love, the nurse said, adjusting Amara's fore. Rest now. They'll bring the baby for feeding soon. Alone in the room, Amara stared at the ceiling and tried to process what had happened. Hours ago, she'd been alone and desperate. Now Jaehyun had chosen her, had given up everything for a chance to be a father. But was it real? Or would he wake up tomorrow and realize what he'd lost, what he'd sacrificed for a woman he'd spent 2 weeks with 6 months ago? Her phone buzzed. 23 missed calls from her sister in Lagos. Dozens of messages from friends who'd seen the videos already circulating on Korean social media. Hashtags were trending. #Kang proposal fail, #Chaebol scandal, #Christmas baby drama. She opened one video and immediately wished she hadn't. There she was, heavily pregnant and collapsing at the most exclusive resort in Seoul, ruining what should have been a fairy tale proposal. The comments were vicious. Gold digger. Homewrecker. Who does she think she is? He was obviously using her and she trapped him with a baby. Amara's hands shook as she closed the app. This was what Jaehyun had been protecting himself from. This public evisceration. And now she dragged him into it anyway. The door opened. Jaehyun stood there, still in his surgical scrubs, his hair disheveled, his eyes red. He looked wrecked. They said you're awake, he said quietly. Can I come in? Amara nodded. He entered, closing the door behind him, and just stood there awkwardly, like he didn't know what to do with his hands. She's beautiful, he finally said. I've been watching her sleep. She has your nose. And your mouth. But my eyes and my terrible temper apparently. She's been yelling at the nurses every time they try to check her vitals. Despite herself, Amara laughed. It hurt her incision, but she couldn't help it. That's definitely your genes. I'm very easygoing. You flew to Seoul 8.5 months pregnant to ambush me at my proposal, he pointed out. That's not easygoing. I didn't mean to ambush you. My water wasn't supposed to break for another 3 weeks. Nothing about tonight went according to plan, Jaehyun said, sinking into the chair beside her bed. He looked utterly exhausted. My mother called 17 times. My brother sent a very eloquent text basically disowning me. And Mina's father, who was supposed to merge his pharmaceutical company with ours, just pulled out of the deal. I cost my company approximately 3 billion won tonight. Amara's stomach dropped. Jaehyun. I don't care, he interrupted. I mean, I do care. That's a lot of money and a lot of angry investors. But when I saw you standing there, pregnant with my child, alone, I realized I'd been living a lie for 6 months. Pretending you didn't exist. Pretending our daughter didn't exist. Pretending I could just marry Mina and play the perfect son and everything would be fine. You could have still had that life if I hadn't shown up. No, I couldn't, he said, meeting her eyes. Because every single day, I thought about you. Every night, I dreamed about what our child might look like. I was engaged to Mina, and I was in love with a ghost. That's not a life. That's cowardice. So what happens now? Amara asked. You gave up everything for us. What if you wake up next week and regret it? Then I'll deal with regret, Jaehyun said. But at least I won't be a coward anymore. Before Amara could respond, a knock interrupted them. A nurse entered, wheeling a small bassinet. Someone wants her mama, she said cheerfully. Noel was awake, her little face scrunched up, making small mewling sounds that were rapidly escalating toward a full cry. The nurse helped Amara sit up carefully, mindful of her fresh incision, and placed Noel in her arms. The moment felt surreal. This was her daughter. This tiny person was half her, half Jaehyun, completely her responsibility. The weight of it was overwhelming. She needs to nurse, the nurse explained. Do you need help? Amara nodded, suddenly shy with Jaehyun watching. But the nurse was professional and quick, helping her get Noel to latch. The baby nursed hungrily, her little hand clutching at Amara's hospital gown. I'll leave you 3 alone, the nurse said, smiling. Press the call button if you need anything. After she left, silence filled the room except for Noel's soft nursing sounds. Jaehyun watched them, something raw and vulnerable in his expression. I missed everything, he said quietly. Your first ultrasound. Finding out the gender. Feeling her kick. All those moments I can never get back. No, you can't, Amara agreed. You made that choice. I know. And I'll have to live with it. But I don't want to miss anything else. First smile, first laugh, first steps. I want to be there for all of it. Being a father isn't about the Instagram moments, Amara said. It's 3 a.m. feedings and diaper blowouts and crying you can't stop. It's boring and exhausting and thankless most of the time. I know. Do you? She looked at him hard. You grew up with nannies and drivers and every privilege imaginable. You have no idea what you're signing up for. Then teach me, Jaehyun said, his voice intense. I'm a fast learner. And I'm not going anywhere. You say that now. But your family. My family made their choice. I made mine. Noel finished nursing and made a small satisfied sound. Amara carefully lifted her to her shoulder for burping. Immediately, Noel spit up, soaking Amara's hospital gown. Oh God, Amara groaned. I don't have any other clothes. I'll get you some, Jaehyun said immediately, standing up. What do you need? Everything. My hotel room has all my things, but I obviously can't go there. I need clothes, toiletries, nursing bras, pads. Make a list, he said, pulling out his phone. I'll have everything delivered within the hour. Jaehyun, it's almost midnight on Christmas Eve. Nothing's open. He gave her a small smile. I might have lost my inheritance, but I still have my credit card and some very well-connected assistants. Text me what you need. He left quickly, and Amara was alone with Noel again. The baby was falling asleep, her tiny features relaxed and peaceful. Amara studied her daughter's face, memorizing every detail. This little person was hers. Nothing could change that. But Jaehyun was her father, and that complicated everything. True to his word, within an hour, a mountain of supplies arrived. Not just what Amara had requested, but extras of everything: designer nursing clothes, premium toiletries, 3 different types of breast pumps, more diapers than they could possibly need for a week. It was excessive and very Jaehyun. He returned with the deliveries, looking pleased with himself. This is too much, Amara protested. It's not enough, he countered. But it's a start. He'd also brought food, her favorite Nigerian dishes from a 24-hour African restaurant he'd somehow found in Seoul. Jollof rice, plantains, egusi soup. The smell alone made Amara's eyes water. How did you remember? She whispered. I remember everything about Lagos, Jaehyun said quietly. Every meal we shared. Every conversation. Every moment. They ate in companionable silence, Noel sleeping between them in her bassinet. It felt domestic in a way that terrified Amara. This wasn't real life. Real life would hit tomorrow when the adrenaline wore off and reality set in. Where will you stay? She asked suddenly. After tonight. Jaehyun paused, fork halfway to his mouth. I haven't thought that far ahead. Your mother said you'd lose everything. Does that include your apartment? The apartment is in my name, thankfully. The company stock and trust fund, those are gone. But I have personal savings and some investments my grandmother left me that my mother can't touch. He set down his fork. I'm not destitute, Amara. I can take care of you both. I don't need you to take care of me. I've been doing fine on my own. Have you? He looked at her directly. Because you flew to Seoul 8.5 months pregnant with nowhere to stay and no backup plan when your water broke. Amara flushed. I had a plan. I was going to wait until after Christmas and approach you at your office. And if I'd refused to see you, then I would have gone back to Lagos knowing I tried. Alone. You would have raised her alone. Women do it every day. I know, Jaehyun said quietly, and I'm ashamed that I almost made you one of them. But I'm here now. So let me help. Please. Before Amara could respond, her phone rang. Her sister's face filled the screen. With a sigh, she answered. Girl, what the hell is happening? Her sister Zainab's voice was loud enough that Jaehyun could probably hear every word. You're all over the internet. Did you really crash his proposal? I didn't crash anything. My water broke. At his proposal. To another woman. While you were pregnant with his baby. Amara, this is literally a Nollywood movie. I know. I lived it. Is he there? Let me talk to him. Zainab, no. But her sister was already yelling. Mr. Billionaire, if you hurt my sister again, I will personally fly to Korea and... Jaehyun carefully took the phone from Amara. Hello, Zainab. I'm Jaehyun. There was a beat of surprised silence. Then, you remember my name? Of course. Amara talked about you constantly. You're the architect working on that sustainable housing project in Abuja. You have twin boys. You make the best puff-puff in Lagos according to your sister. Another silence. Then, grudgingly, okay, you get partial credit for paying attention. But you still ghosted my sister when she was pregnant. I know. And I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'm trying to do better. Trying isn't good enough. My sister deserves someone who doesn't have to try to choose her. She deserves someone who chooses her first, always, without hesitation. You're right, Jaehyun said. And I'm going to prove to her that I can be that person. You better, Zainab said fiercely. Because if you break her heart again, your mother won't be the scariest person you have to deal with. I will. After he hung up, Jaehyun handed the phone back with a slight smile. Your sister is terrifying. She's protective. And she's right. You do have to prove yourself. I will, he promised. Every single day. The night passed in a blur of nursing, diaper changes, and exhausted half-sleep. Jaehyun refused to leave, sleeping in the uncomfortable chair beside Amara's bed. Every time Noel cried, he woke instantly, hovering anxiously until Amara assured him everything was fine. Around 4 a.m., after Noel had been fed and changed and was sleeping peacefully, Amara found herself just watching Jaehyun sleep. Even exhausted and disheveled, he was beautiful. But more than that, he looked peaceful in a way she'd never seen during their time in Lagos. Like some burden had been lifted. I can feel you staring, he murmured without opening his eyes. Can't help it. You drool when you sleep. I'm taking mental notes for future blackmail. He opened one eye. I don't drool. You absolutely do. Right there. She pointed at his chin. He wiped at it self-consciously, and she laughed. The sound woke Noel, who immediately started crying. Jaehyun was on his feet instantly. What does she need? Is she hungry again? Does she need changing? Relax, Amara said, reaching for their daughter. Babies cry. It's literally their only form of communication. But Noel didn't stop crying. She screamed, her little face turning red, her body rigid. Amara tried nursing her, but she wouldn't latch. Tried rocking her, but she only cried harder. Something's wrong, Jaehyun said, panic rising in his voice. Should we call the nurse? Before Amara could answer, Noel let out a particularly loud wail and simultaneously had a diaper explosion. The sound was unmistakable. Oh, Amara said, relief flooding through her. She just needed to poop. Jaehyun stared at the baby, then at Amara. That's normal. Welcome to fatherhood. Where poop is a cause for celebration. They changed Noel together, Jaehyun fumbling with the diaper, getting the tabs wrong twice before finally getting it right. But he didn't complain, didn't grimace at the mess, just focused intently on the task like it was a crucial business negotiation. You're doing good, Amara said softly. He looked up, surprised. Really? Really? Most fathers would have run screaming by now. I'm not most fathers, he said. And I'm not running. Not ever again. Christmas morning dawned cold and bright. Amara woke to find Jaehyun gone and Noel sleeping peacefully in her bassinet. Panic seized her until the door opened and Jaehyun appeared, carrying coffee and pastries. Merry Christmas, he said quietly. I know hospital food is terrible, so I went out. You left? Amara asked, hating the fear in her voice. Just to the bakery across the street. I was gone 20 minutes. Amara, I'm not disappearing. When I leave, I tell you where I'm going and when I'll be back. Okay. She nodded, feeling foolish. But trust wasn't something that could be rebuilt overnight. They spent Christmas Day in the hospital room, learning to be parents together. Jaehyun held Noel skin to skin, his daughter sleeping on his bare chest while he dozed in the chair. Amara pumped milk and ate and tried to ignore the constant buzzing of her phone as the media circus around them intensified. By evening, the story had gone international. Korean CEO abandons wedding for secret baby screamed the headlines. Photos of Jaehyun carrying her from the resort were everywhere. So were photos of Mina, looking devastated in her white dress, the rejected ring still in the snow. I should call her, Jaehyun said, seeing the photos. Apologize properly. She doesn't want to hear from you right now, Amara said. Trust me. I humiliated her in front of everyone she knows. You humiliated yourself too. And me. Everyone's humiliated. It's a humiliation party. Despite everything, Jaehyun laughed. How are you making jokes right now? Because if I don't laugh, I'll cry. And I'm too tired to cry. Dr. Kim discharged them on December 26 with a long list of postpartum instructions and a warning for Amara to take it easy. The C-section recovery would take weeks, and she needed rest. Where will you go? The doctor asked. Amara and Jaehyun looked at each other. They hadn't discussed it. My apartment, Jaehyun said. It has a spare bedroom. She and Noel can stay there until she's healed enough to travel. I can get a hotel, Amara started. With a newborn? After major surgery? No. His tone left no room for argument. You need help. Let me help. So they went to his apartment, a sleek penthouse in Gangnam with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was aggressively modern, all sharp angles and minimalist furniture. Not exactly baby-friendly. We'll need to childproof, Jaehyun said, looking around with new eyes. And get a crib. And a changing table. And probably a lot of other things I don't know about yet. One thing at a time, Amara said, exhausted. She just wanted to sleep. Jaehyun showed her to the guest room, which he'd already prepared with fresh sheets and blackout curtains. A bassinet stood beside the bed, brand new with the tags still on. When did you do this? She asked. Last night while you were sleeping. I wanted everything ready. He left her alone to rest, taking Noel with him. Amara listened to him through the door, talking softly to their daughter. Okay, Noel. Your mom needs sleep, so it's just you and me. We can do this. How hard can it be? 20 minutes later, she heard. Why are you crying? I just changed you. Are you hungry? Please don't be hungry, I don't have the right equipment for that. Amara smiled and closed her eyes. Maybe this could work. Maybe. She woke 3 hours later to the sound of her daughter screaming. She found Jaehyun pacing the living room, Noel wailing in his arms, his face panicked. I tried everything, he said desperately. I changed her, I burped her, I sang to her. You sang to her? Amara couldn't help but ask. I didn't know what else to do. She won't stop crying. Amara took Noel, who immediately quieted against her chest. She can smell me. Babies know their mothers. Jaehyun looked devastated. So she won't ever calm down for me? She will. It just takes time. You've known her for 2 days. I've known her for 9 months. But over the next few days, a routine developed. Jaehyun threw himself into fatherhood with the same intensity he'd probably brought to business. He bought every baby book available. He watched hours of YouTube tutorials on diapering, swaddling, and soothing techniques. He set alarms for every feeding so Amara wouldn't have to wake him. He was trying. Really, genuinely trying. But the outside world wouldn't leave them alone. Photographers camped outside the building. Reporters called constantly. Social media was vicious. Amara made the mistake of reading the comments one afternoon and immediately regretted it. She's a gold digger who trapped him. He destroyed his whole life for some foreign woman and her baby. I feel sorry for the real fiancé. Korean men, this is why you don't date outside your race. The racism was expected but still stung. What hurt more were the comments from other black women, accusing her of being a fetishist, of being sprung for an Asian man, of abandoning her blackness for proximity to wealth. You're reading the comments, Jaehyun said, finding her crying on the couch while Noel slept. Never read the comments. They hate me, Amara whispered. Everyone hates me. They don't know you. They don't know what we went through. They just want a villain, and you're convenient. I am a villain. I ruined your engagement. I destroyed your family relationships. I cost your company billions. No, Jaehyun said firmly, sitting beside her. I did all of that. You just gave birth to our daughter. Everything else was my choice. A choice you're already regretting. I'm not. You haven't left this apartment in 4 days. You're hiding. He was quiet for a moment. I'm not hiding. I'm just adjusting. To what? To being poor. To being disowned. To being stuck with a woman you barely know and a baby you never planned for. Stop, Jaehyun said, his voice strained. Just stop. Yes, I'm adjusting. Yes, this is hard. Yes, I miss my old life sometimes. But that doesn't mean I regret this. How can you not regret it? Because she exists. He gestured to Noel, sleeping peacefully in her bassinet. Our daughter is real and perfect, and I love her more than anything I've ever loved in my entire life. How could I possibly regret her? You can love her and still regret the circumstances. Okay, fine. Yes, I wish I'd handled everything differently 6 months ago. I wish I'd been brave enough to choose you then instead of now. I wish you hadn't had to go through pregnancy alone. I wish my proposal to Mina hadn't been ruined in the most public way possible. I wish a lot of things. He stood up, pacing. But I don't wish Noel didn't exist. And I don't wish you weren't here. Because when I hold my daughter, when I watch you with her, when we're all together in this weird little bubble we've created, I feel more myself than I ever did in my old life. So no, Amara. I don't regret this. Even when it's hard. Even when the internet hates us. Even when my mother sends me texts about how disappointed she is. I don't regret choosing you. Amara stared at him, tears streaming down her face. You're just saying that. I'm not. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands. I know I have to prove it. I know words aren't enough. But I'm asking you to give me the chance. Not for what we were in Lagos. Not for some fantasy future. But for right now. Let me be Noel's father. Let me support you. Let me earn your trust back, one day at a time. Before Amara could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at it and his face went pale. It's my brother, he said. You should answer it. He did, switching to Korean. Amara couldn't understand the words, but she could hear the tone. Angry. Dismissive. Final. When Jaehyun hung up, his hands were shaking. What did he say? Amara asked. The board voted. I'm officially removed from the company. My shares have been seized pending investigation of moral turpitude clauses in my contract. And my mother is filing a petition to have my trust fund declared forfeit due to bringing dishonor to the family name. Oh my God. Jaehyun. It's fine, he said, but his voice was hollow. I expected this. How is this fine? They're taking everything. Not everything. I still have my grandmother's inheritance. About $5 million that's completely separate from the family trust. And the apartment. And my car. And some investments. He laughed bitterly. I'm not broke. Just significantly less rich than I was a week ago. This is my fault. No, he said sharply. This is my family's fault for being so obsessed with image that they'd rather disown me than accept their granddaughter. This is Korea's fault for being so rigid about who deserves respect. This is everyone's fault except yours. Noel woke up crying. They both moved toward her, but Jaehyun got there first, scooping her up with a tenderness that made Amora's heart ache. Hey, princess, he murmured. It's okay. Daddy's here. Daddy. He said it so naturally now, like he'd been saying it his whole life. Watching him with their daughter, Amara felt something shift inside her. He'd lost everything for them. His family, his company, his social standing. Everything he'd spent 32 years building, gone in an instant. And he didn't regret it. That had to mean something. Jaehyun, she said softly. He looked up, Noel cradled against his chest. I don't forgive you yet, she said. But I want to try. For her. For us. I want to see if we can build something real. His eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? But you have to promise me something. Anything. No more running. No more choosing the easy path over the right path. If this gets hard, if your family comes back, if you start to regret this, you tell me. You don't disappear. You stay and we figure it out together. I promise, he said. I'm done running. Noel made a small sound, like she was agreeing. They both laughed. Okay then, Amara said. Let's try. But even as she said it, even as Jaehyun smiled with relief and hope, Amara couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The easy part. The real test would come later, when the newborn glow wore off and reality set in. When Jaehyun realized what he'd really given up. When his family came back with lawyers and ultimatums. When love had to survive in the real world instead of this temporary bubble. The next morning, reality arrived in the form of a letter slipped under the door. Legal letterhead. Jaehyun's family law firm. He opened it with shaking hands, his face going progressively paler as he read. What is it? Amara asked, dread pooling in her stomach. They're suing for paternity testing, he said quietly. And if Noel is confirmed as mine, they're filing for immediate custody on the grounds that I'm financially and mentally unstable. They're claiming that removing me from the company proves I'm not capable of making sound decisions. Amara felt her blood turn to ice. They can't do that. They're going to try. He looked at her, and she saw fear in his eyes. Real, bone-deep fear. Amara, they're trying to take our daughter. And just like that, their fragile peace shattered. The war was just beginning, and Amara had no idea if they were strong enough to survive it. What would happen to Noel? To them? Could love really conquer everything, or had Jaehyun's choice doomed them all? The only thing Amara knew for certain was that the hardest part was still ahead. And they'd have to face it together, ready or not. If you're hooked on Amara and Jaehyun's story, like this video and subscribe for part 2. Will they lose Noel to his powerful family? Can their love survive a legal war? Drop a comment with your predictions. And hit that notification bell because part 2 drops in 3 days and you do not want to miss what happens next.